Imagine a world where the very air wants you dead. No trees to build a fire, no clay to shape a home, not a single green plant to eat. Just endless, blinding white and winds that cut right through your bones. By every rule of human biology, we do not belong here. We should freeze. We should starve. Yet, in the most unforgiving, brutal wasteland on Earth, one group of people didn't just survive. They built an empire out of ice. Chapter 1. The Master Engineers of Ice. When you have absolutely nothing, you have to completely rethink how you look at the world. The Inuit didn't try to fight the freezing environment. Instead, they took the very thing that was trying to kill them, the snow and ice, and used it to stay alive. Take the igloo, for example. Most people just picture a basic snow fort, but in reality, it is a brilliant piece of engineering. The Inuit built these structures using a specific curve called a catenary arch. It's the exact same weight-distributing design you see in massive stone cathedrals, except they did it with blocks of wind-crushed snow. The results are mind-blowing. Outside, the wind could be screaming at -50 degrees Fahrenheit. But inside, with just the body heat of a few people and a small seal oil lamp, it could easily sit at a comfortable 60 degrees. The snow wasn't burying them, it was wrapping them in warmth. But the cold wasn't the only killer out there. When the sun comes out, the light bounces off miles of endless white snow. If you stare at it too long, it literally burns your corneas. It's a terrifying condition called snow blindness. To stop this, they carved goggles out of bone or caribou antler. They cut a single, razor-thin slit across the center. This brilliant design blocked out the deadly glare and actually sharpened their focus. They were wearing high-tech, custom optical gear thousands of years before modern sunglasses even existed. And then there is the water. How do you navigate a freezing, violent ocean without heavy timber to build ships? You build something that moves with the water. They lashed together animal bones or tiny scraps of driftwood, stretched waterproof seal skin tightly over the frame, and created the kayak. It was so incredibly light that a hunter could carry it with one hand, yet so perfectly balanced that if a wave flipped it over, the hunter could roll right back up in a second. It wasn't just a boat. It was an extension of the hunter's own body. Chapter 2. The Biological Paradox. So, you've built a shelter to block out the wind, and you have the gear to navigate the ice. But there is still a massive, undeniable problem. Look around. The ground is permanently frozen. There is no soil to plant seeds, no citrus trees, no vegetables, no fields of grain. When European explorers first sailed into the Arctic centuries later, they brought massive stockpiles of food. Yet, they died horrific, slow deaths from scurvy, a brutal disease caused by a lack of vitamin C, where your body literally begins to break down. They died because they couldn't find fresh plants. Yet, the Inuit lived here for thousands of years, completely free of scurvy, without ever seeing an orange or a piece of broccoli. How? They found a biological loophole that completely shatters what modern medicine thought it knew about nutrition. The answer was in the animals they hunted. But it wasn't just about what they ate, it was about how they ate it. They consumed the meat raw. When you cook a piece of meat over a fire, the intense heat destroys the fragile traces of vitamin C hidden inside the tissue. By eating it raw, the Inuit absorbed every single drop of those life-saving nutrients. Their ultimate superfood was something called muktuk, thick slices of raw whale skin and blubber. To an outsider looking in, chewing on raw whale fat might seem primitive or harsh, but in reality, it was an absolute masterstroke of human biology. A single slice of that raw skin packed as much vitamin C as an orange. The dense, rich blubber provided the massive explosion of calories their bodies desperately needed to keep their internal furnaces burning in the dead of winter. They didn't try to force the Arctic to provide a normal diet. They surrendered to what the ice offered, turning the harshest diet on Earth into the ultimate key to survival. Chapter 3. The Mindset of Ice. But mastering the environment and conquering the diet still leaves one massive threat. And this one doesn't come from the blizzard outside. It comes from inside the human mind. Imagine being trapped inside a tiny, snow-walled dome. Outside, the sun has vanished, and it is pitch black for months on end. You are shoulder to shoulder with your family, day after day, in an unbelievably confined space. In a situation like that, one bitter argument, one violent outburst, isn't just uncomfortable. It is an absolute death sentence. The group cannot afford to splinter, because if you are cast out of the igloo, you freeze. The Inuit understood this deeply. They knew that human emotion, if left unchecked, was far more dangerous than any polar bear or plunging temperature. So, they developed a profound psychological framework around a concept called isumaksayuk, the cultivation of a quiet, steady mind. In modern society, we often associate anger with power or dominance. For the Inuit, anger is the exact opposite. It is viewed as pathetic. If an adult loses their temper, they aren't seen as intimidating or strong. They are looked at like a toddler throwing a childish tantrum. They are seen as weak, lacking the basic emotional maturity required to survive. This mindset is hardwired into them from the moment they are born. Traditional Inuit parents simply do not shout at their children. They don't scold, they don't hit, and they don't punish with rage. Instead, they use quiet storytelling and immense patience to teach children how to regulate their own nervous systems. They condition their kids to let frustration just wash over them without reacting. This deep emotional control paved the way for their absolute, unbreakable law of survival: unconditional sharing. In the Arctic, there is zero room for ego. When a hunter manages to pull a seal from the freezing depths, he doesn't drag it home just for his own family. That meat is immediately divided and handed out to the entire camp. Selfishness or hoarding doesn't just make you a bad neighbor out here, it destroys the trust of the group. And out on the ice, you do not survive alone. You either survive together, or you die alone. Chapter 4. The David versus Goliath Hunt. All of this, the brilliant engineering, the extreme diet, the absolute psychological control, it all builds to one defining moment. It culminates in the ultimate test of human survival, the hunt for the bowhead whale. Picture the sheer, terrifying scale of this. You have a handful of hunters stepping into an umiak, a boat made of nothing more than stretched animal skins and driftwood. They are paddling out into the freezing, crushing currents of the Arctic Ocean to face down a living Leviathan. A bowhead whale can weigh up to 100 tons. It can smash a heavy wooden ship to splinters with a single flick of its tail. It's a literal David versus Goliath scenario, and by all logical metrics, the humans should lose every single time. But the Inuit didn't try to use brute force to win. They used brilliance. They invented a devastatingly clever weapon called the toggle-headed harpoon. When the sharp point struck the whale, it didn't just pierce the flesh. It detached from the wooden shaft and twisted sideways under the thick blubber, locking firmly in place so it couldn't be pulled out. Attached to this harpoon line weren't heavy anchors, but inflated sealskin floats. When the colossal whale tried to dive and escape into the deep, it had to drag these massive pockets of air down with it. It was a masterclass in wearing down an opponent. They let the giant fight the relentless buoyancy of the floats, draining its immense strength until it simply didn't have the energy left to swim. Yet, what happens when the hunt ends is what truly sets this culture apart. When the 100-ton giant finally took its last breath, there were no arrogant cheers of conquest. There was no chest-pounding over defeating nature. Instead, there was a profound, heavy silence. The wife of the whaling captain, the Umialik, would step forward. In an incredibly moving ritual, she would pour a cup of fresh, sweet water into the mouth or blowhole of the fallen whale. The Inuit believed that the whale's spirit was thirsty from living its entire life in the salty ocean, and that it had willingly offered its body to the hunters so the village could survive the winter. It wasn't viewed as a slaughter. It was a sacred exchange. It was a beautiful, heartbreaking moment of absolute respect between the living and the dead, right on the edge of the world. The echoes in the ice. When you look closely at the story of the Inuit, you realize something profound. They didn't survive by waging a stubborn war against the Arctic. They survived by becoming a part of it. They didn't conquer the ice. They let it shape them into something completely unbreakable. There is a haunting echo in that frozen wasteland that speaks directly to how we live today. We live in a modern world with central heating, instant communication, and grocery stores packed with food from across the globe. We have every technological comfort imaginable. Yet so many of us are quick to anger, perpetually stressed, and deeply lonely. The Inuit had absolutely nothing. They faced a ruthless, pitch-black winter that threatened to kill them every single day. But they possessed an unshakable inner resilience, a quiet mind, and most importantly, they had each other. Their history is far more than just a masterclass in extreme survival. It is the ultimate proof that human brilliance, deep emotional control, and unwavering empathy can outlast even the cruelest forces on Earth.